Hi, welcome to Office Hours, a podcast about what leadership actually looks like in real life, not in theory, not in titles, and not in perfect conditions. I'm your host, Lisa.
And I am Carolina.
And today our topic is listening. It's something that sometimes is just underrated in leadership. And so today we're going to just talk about the power of listening.
So we're just talking with Lisa how important it is to be able to listen to someone and how we don't do it often. Many times it's just a solution to motivation and to many other things.
Yeah. There's so much research on this topic. It really comes out of psychology, and psychologists have been studying it for since the 1950s, really almost a century. And what they've noticed is that when people really feel seen and understood, they're able to solve their own problems. You don't have to solve them for them. And so it's just really important to spend that time listening. And it just changes something. Haven't you ever found that?
Yes, I think it's been interesting the many times that you're thinking that you have to find a solution for something specific, or that when you have to have a conversation with someone, you have to figure out an outcome of that conversation. And it is true that for the most part, you don't go into conversation without looking forward to an outcome. But sometimes the conversation's outcome is just listening and just feeling understood or feeling listened to. Many times you have to give credit to those that you're talking to and just give them an opportunity to be their sounding box, like just the person that they can talk to without any need of any
Expectations.
solution or
Just trying to
expectation.
understand them.
True.
Yeah, just trying to understand them is just a really important basic human need. People want to feel understood. And when you come in with the solution or an outcome and you listen to them for a couple of minutes, you think you're being empathetic, right? And then you jump right into your solution and okay, well, I understand how you feel. Now do this.
Yeah.
It really doesn't work, right? A lot of times what people really want is just to feel heard. And if you give them the time to really explain themselves and then thank them and let them feel that good feeling of being heard for a day or 2 days. And then, in a couple of days, you come back and say, so I've been thinking about our conversation. And then you adjust and you incorporate what they really need and what they really feel, and you align your interests. You find, hey, what they really need is this, and that's how it connects to what I want. And this is where we align. And that's when the magic really happens. They feel heard. They feel like you are looking out for their interests, and they're going to do a lot for you.
And I think that sometimes the solutions are not in your head. Some like as lately in this world that everything is so pragmatic, and you are a project manager or you are in operations and you need something to always get to a result. With humanity is very different. Results don't come like 2 + 2 is 4. And if I get that result from this meeting, then we had a good meeting. If I don't get this sorted out, then this was not a good meeting. Well, these type of meetings, allowing others to just be listened to, are those meetings that you have to be able to just leave them as is, unresolved in a way, because you are not looking for an outcome. You're not looking for a solution. You're not waiting for this to be resolved in this meeting. This is just a place where that person can maybe just be listened to and check maybe their solutions are in their own brain most of the time. And then a couple of days later, you'll see some changes that were not there before and that didn't know where they came from. And they just came from themselves being able to talk to someone else out loud. And that's something difficult when we're in operations. It is difficult to kind of don't have that control, but that's one of I think that the biggest satisfactions for a leader is to be able to see a change in someone without having to, control every solution that comes their way.
Yeah. So the legendary CEO of Intel, Andy Grove, really brought this idea into management when he invented one-on-one meetings. And he saw that when you meet one-on-one with your team, one-on-one for an hour every single week, their performance goes through the roof. And why? Because you're listening to them for an hour. They're thinking, my boss is taking an hour out of their week to listen to me, to hear what the problems are, to chit chat with me, to do a little shop talk, to help me figure out what I need to do. My boss is taking an hour out of his busy week to listen to me. I must be important. And they're going to go out and work really hard to make that come true, to be important, to have an impact, so that they can come back the next week and report, hey, now I did this. And the boss is going to say, great. And that dynamic, setting up a dynamic once a week where the boss listens to the team one-on-one every week, has been an incredible game changer for tech. This is a standard practice at Google, Microsoft, Apple. TikTok is run on this. It's just all throughout tech has really embraced that ethic, and they do. The companies that run the fastest Meta in our economy, every single manager takes an hour for every single person every week. And that's what supercharges the whole organization.
Yes, it is very true. And also because we underestimate the power of listening. We underestimate the power of communication. We forget that when you listen and when you communicate with someone and you actively listen, you also show the other person that you care. And that's the magic moment. That's where that happens. Because if you listen to someone enough, it can be 10 minutes, 5 minutes, but if you're actively listening, that gives that signal that you actually care.
When you feel that your organization and your boss cares about you, it's a huge motivator. People come in and ask all the time, how do I motivate my team? I'm like, what do you know about them? How much do you care about them?
And sometimes they say like, oh yeah, no, I do care for them very much. Like give them popcorn and then pizza. They always go for the money, the pizza,
right.
the popcorn. You're like, yeah, I mean, those are motivators, but they're not a sustainable motivator.
You might be motivated for 5 minutes for some popcorn.
They're very short. They're short-lived motivators for sure. You remind me, Netflix also has a very different way of doing business as well. And one of the things that they do that includes not only understanding and listening, but also candor. And one of the things they do is that anybody is allowed to talk to anyone, even if it's the CEO, and tell them what they think about their ideas or whatever they're doing, if they feel is wrong. Might be sometimes, as I've been reading their book on their culture, might be harder sometimes to maybe listen to some things, because that's another thing. Many people say like, no, I listen to and I give them my feedback. And it's like, sometimes it's not even giving any feedback. It's just listening. That's it. But in this case, communication and active listening and active giving feedback actively does show a really good way and a good pathway into continuous innovation. And you can see it in Netflix. It goes so fast and innovates so fast that the only way that I can think of that works so well is because there's emphasis on communication.
Yeah, if you're going to innovate, what you need is everybody's ideas all the time. 90% of those ideas are going to be thrown out. But there's going to be 10%, that one that is really, really smart is going to really change things. So here's one of the stories that I like to do, and is from Google. So Sundar Pichai in 2008 had the idea of doing Google's own browser, creating a browser for Google. And this was kind of early days for Google, and they didn't have their own browser. And they thought, well, if we know what people are typing in, we know better how to serve them. They were using other people's browsers to hit their homepage. So he started working on it. And the first thing he did was say, well, he did a measure of success, which I think is really important. And he said, users are going to decide whether it's a really good product or not, right? So it's a very simple measure of success. And the first year he wanted 25 million users. And his team worked really hard and they started to put it out there. And the first year they got 13 million users. So that was half of his goal. But he really believed in his product. He believed what he was doing, believed in his team. And he said, let's double down and say we want 50 million the next year. So he literally doubled his goal, even though he didn't meet it. And the next year he got, I think it was something like 34 million the next year. Now his goal was 50, but if he had said, oh, we didn't reach 25, we're just going to stick with 25 till we get that, he might not have gotten 34, right? He was pushing it up. So he pushed it up to 50, and then he said, well, I know I didn't meet my goal again, but I'm going to double down again. He said, I want 100 million users. And sure enough, in the third year, he got 115 million users. Google was putting a lot more emphasis on it because they started to see the value of what happens when you have 15 or 30 million users. They were like, oh, this is really important. So he gave him a bigger budget and they just went for it. But he listened to his team, and Google listened to him and said, all right, try it. And this was his project. And within 3 years, Google Chrome became one of the top browsers in the world.
Yeah, you can actually see it with everything that they have today. That, for example, I use Workspace for all the things that I do with Google and my company. And it's very interesting to see how innovation is tied up with communication, with high level of one-on-ones, with I do know, for example, that when they hire someone, generally there's more than one person that it's including in that conversation. And I'm just saying not those that are going to be hiring them, but those that are going to be working with them. So I think that listening and communication ends up being quite a big piece when it comes to companies wanting to innovate, and innovate not once and twice in the year, but actually continuously innovate and continuously be able to give that psychological safety to those in their company to be able to move faster. Because if you feel that your boss cares for you, if you feel that you're listened to, that you are understood, and that you can come up with ideas without being judged, etc., that will give you psychological safety. And if you have that, that is the best thing a company can give to one of their employees, because for sure they're not going to be working 8 hours a day. They're going to be working pretty much 24, because they're going to go home and ask their husband or friends or talk about one thing or the other, or just like sit down and listening to something, will think about something about the company. Otherwise, you're going to have someone that is disengaged for the most part. Because if you are asking your team to concentrate on many different things, but you are not there to listen to their ideas and so on, then they will not be thinking about the company later on. The day is going to be thinking about something completely different. Not the 24 hours. I mean, not the 8 hours that you're at work, but the actual 24 hours of the day. Maybe looking for a job. Maybe they don't feel that they're valued. So then maybe they just do whatever they have to, but they don't do it without any intention. And for sure, no innovation comes from there. So I think that if someone listens to you, a leader listens to you, the signal that is giving to you, it's way greater than what we think as leaders. And I think that we should be a bit more active on learning how to listen without always wanting to give feedback and solutions.
Absolutely. I mean, the listening is the big thing. And again, what I said is that this comes from so many hours, really a century of research on the power of listening. For instance, when they have a suicide hotline, if you have somebody who's on the ledge and they are ready to jump, and somebody comes up to them and says, "Don't jump," they jump. Why? Because you're not listening to them. You don't understand their problems. You're just another person telling them what to do who doesn't understand the issue, right? But if you go to them and they're standing on the ledge and you say, "Talk to me," and whatever they listen, you repeat it, you understand it, you empathize. You say, "I get how hard that is. Oh my gosh, that must be really, really hard." And they're like, "Yes, it is hard." But eventually, when they really feel understood, they come in off the ledge because they feel understood. And we can use this same psychology in our workplace, right? When we have people who are not engaged, who are making trouble, who are not doing what they're supposed to do, who are not motivated, spending some time listening, because you are showing that you care. And when you care about them, they begin to care about you. It's reciprocal. They care about you, they care about the company, they care about their job.
One of the things that I think that it should be also incorporated into this conversation is the fact that many times companies think time is money. And it's true, time is money, but this is time well spent. Many times people say like, "Oh yeah, you don't have time to talk to that person for an hour or for half an hour or for 20 minutes. Well, actually, if you give that person those 10, 15, 20 minutes, you're going to get from them a ton more devoted time to your company, which will actually come back to you as progress and money, if all you want is money. Because many times the business is a business and we get it. But sometimes listening and time communicating, it's a bit overrated because it's not connected to this pragmatic idea of money. It's the same as time. So in this case, yes, true, time is money, but at the end of the day, time well spent with communicating and with showing you care, that means that all of that time that you've spent in giving that opportunity to that person to feel valued is going to come back to you exponentially.
It's an incredible ethic, really incredible ethic, and, you can see the results. Let's say you've got a team of 6 people and you spend an hour a week listening to them. That's 6 hours out of your week. But let's say each of them do 10% more. Out of a 40-hour week, they're doing 4 hours more a week, right? You multiply that by 6, so your 6 hours ends up being 24 hours for the company in more motivation, better work, and what they're motivated to do. And it really has been proven over and over. The list goes on about how this helps in every single thing. We're human beings. It is business, but at the end of the day, we need people to drive it forward. We're not machines. And what you can do with AI, great, but AI doesn't tell you what to do, right? You have to have somebody running strategy and figuring out what you want to do and working that AI. I mean, people can do incredible amounts of work now, but they have to be really focused. They have to be strategic. They have to care about what they're doing. And this is really the foundation of where that comes from. Carolina, thank you for that story and sharing that book. This is something that's really near and dear to my heart and something that I have worked to really help my clients and the people who follow me understand how important listening is for everybody.
If you have a case that is keeping you up at night, send us an email to leadershipu25@gmail.com and we will talk about it in the future episode. So follow us on Instagram or subscribe to our YouTube channel and see you in the next episode.
See you soon.